my reason is for one that you may share, possibly. I have a very low tolerance level for stupid bullshit.
Now, y'all thought y'all could get that past us. Welcome to the Dissect the BS podcast. I'm Uzo.
And I am RJ.
And today we are going to go ahead and talk about some of the not so latest headlines, but lukewarm, if you will. Here is our pop culture segment. So yesterday. Okay, RJ.
Yeah.
The first topic I want to talk to you about is something that is near and dear to me. I actually do my own RHOP recaps over on my channel. Follow me at whatever Uzo says on YouTube. I'll put it up at the top. But I cover RHOP, and last week's episode, Mia Thornton, who was a new girl that came to the cast last year, she gets into it with Dr. Wendy Osefo, right? The whole episode, Mia was picking with Wendy, picking with her. So Wendy had a business venture with Peter Thomas from Real Housewives of Atlanta. Yes, Cynthia Bailey's ex. He can't seem to get away from the limelight. He's everywhere, but he's connected with Mia somehow. I don't know. But the girls ended up in Miami. They ended up at his restaurant. He has a quote unquote beef with Wendy because Wendy wanted to open up a Nigerian restaurant. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the backstory. Peter tells Mia that he has this beef with Wendy, and Mia takes this and runs with it. She instigates it the whole episode, and it's really no story there. And she's trying to make something out of nothing. So she's picking with Wendy, and Wendy's just like, hey, I don't have beef with men. So if there's any beef, he can talk to my husband. And then Mia's like, how are you in Miami in his city and you didn't check up, you didn't check in with him. Y'all are supposed to be doing business and you don't respond. And Mia's like going ham. She's going ham. And Wendy's just like, I don't know how your marriage works, but the only man I check in with is my husband. So she's kind of on that energy. Like, I don't know what y'all are doing, right? But the Osefos check in with each other. Okay, period. So Mia throws a drink right in Wendy's face, like showers this chick. Like, I have never seen such a clean drink throw. It showers her face. It was so terrible. So Wendy has beef with Giselle and Robin, the Green-Eyed Bandits. So the whole time, the Green-Eyed Bandits are making it seem like Wendy was the victim. Because of course, at this point, Wendy is yelling. Wendy never tries to fight Mia or anything. But she's antagonizing her. She's arguing, doing all this stuff. And you got the Green-Eyed Bandits that are like, oh, Wendy, you're antagonizing her. They're blaming Wendy, right? And so at one point, Robin is like, if you're gonna fight her, fight her. But if not, stop antagonizing her. Da 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 da. Which sparks the whole colorism debate. If there is colorism on RHOP. So I know you haven't been keeping up with this season or last season, so you don't know all of the juice. Yeah. But based off of what I told you, do you think that there's colorism there? Keep in mind though, Karen and Ashley both were like, that's not cool. And they're also two light skins. Ashley is biracial, Karen is light skin Black. So they were both just like, but they didn't really stand up for Wendy. They weren't like, Mia, you're wrong. But they did clearly state in the presence of Mia that that's not right. Why are you throwing drinks at people? No.
Yeah. So from the juice that I do have, it is a little bitter because I personally agree with the whole colorism aspect about RHOP. And I think it's something that always is a curious case in reality TV shows with women, especially when it comes to affluence, the lifestyle, and having a predominantly Black cast, but having some sprinkles of some biracial queens and whatnot there. And I think, although this is a different show, it capitalized on it so much, and that's Basketball Wives. So seeing that it's happening here, And I think about Monique, who is no longer on that show, but is on Carlos's King show, or was. I don't know. She's on the second season of Love and Marriage DC. But you know, her and Candace were the two darker women of the series on the show at the time, but they were also identifiable Black women. So it's just like, you know, you see what's happening. Candace is, of course, the girl that talks a lot. It's always great. We love a good Kenya, you know. But at the same time, to see what happened as a result of that was like, ooh, great, gotcha. You know, and it was like, it really wasn't that much up level for her with that whole thing. And I think you have to play it a certain way. But to see how they continue to really orchestrate some things and don't hold certain people accountable, because from what I recall last time, Mia threw some damn lettuce at somebody. I believe at somebody else's
Yeah, it was
house.
actually
Like,
Candace. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, what is happening? Like, assault is assault is assault.
Yeah.
Like, you can't pick and choose. Like, oh, because it was a salad, you know, ingredient, it's okay. Like,
Mhm.
it's never okay to put your hands on someone. So
Not because it was a salad.
I'm just
Because
like,
it's gluten-free, it's
right, it
fine.
makes it okay for the Potomac girls to drink tea and we're all bougie. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just like, no. And I personally think, like, I don't know, you know, I'm not, side note, this
Mhm.
does matter though, the biggest fan of Miss Andy Cohen, because I think he
Ooh,
is
not too much.
messy boots,
Not too
but
much.
I think he's messy
Andisha.
boots. But it's very interesting to hear what is allowed to happen,
Yeah.
especially when the housewives are predominantly a Potomac, you know, Black cast. Yeah, those are my thoughts. And to
Yeah.
even tagline the Green Eye Bandits, you knew what she was doing anyway. And the fact that that's just like, we're saying that lightly, it's like, oh, bitch, you know, colorism, let's laugh at it. It's just like, it's, that's how I
To
feel
be
about it.
fair, though, the girls didn't name themselves that.
They
That was
didn't.
so I
They
believe it was
didn't.
Karen. I think it
Yes.
was Karen. So
Yes.
to be fair,
Yes.
but I see where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily think it's colorism. At least in this situation.
Yeah.
Basketball Wives was absolutely colorism,
Mhm.
1,000%. But I feel like in this situation, that episode really turned me off.
Mhm.
But I will say that I would be more inclined to think that it was colorism in that instance if we were on neutral ground.
Mhm.
But you have two ladies that hate Wendy because of beef that has spanned from the last season.
Yeah.
They have a personal problem with her. So
Yeah.
it's not neutral,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like for me that kind of skewed it to where Wendy can never do right at this point. Like
Yeah.
they're never going to side with her. So maybe if Karen and Ashley were like, you're antagonized, like maybe if they hopped on it and they were doing that because you know they're kind of neutral. They don't really you know, they like both Wendy and they like Mia. They don't really,
Yeah.
you know. So if they were kind of on it like, you know, Wendy, you're wrong, you're
Yeah.
antagonized it. I think at that point I would be like, okay, like y'all are colorists because what's
Right.
going on? But
Yeah.
since they had sense, they weren't doing that. And it was
Yeah.
the two girls that actually hated her for like a reason. They had history, they had beef. I
Yeah.
was kind of like, that's super petty, super childish, not necessarily colorist. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that episode. I can't wait to see what happens. And just a side note, you brought up Monique. My thing was like, when I watched it, I was like, Wendy, like, they're doing you dirty, but I don't really
Yeah.
care because when you came in there and you saw what happened with Monique, and then you were being all fake, and like you were like, you put your like you jumped on that bandwagon
Yeah.
without being realistic. Yes, what Monique did was wrong, but it's like we're not gonna act like we don't know how fights start.
Yes.
So with
True
that, it's like
tea.
I was sitting back there like, ain't that about a bitch?
True tea.
Ain't
True
that about a
tea.
bitch?
You
Wendy,
never
like
know.
they are dead wrong, but I don't care.
Yeah. When
Now
the
you
shoe's on the
see,
other foot, you know,
Mhm.
you looking at things differently. You walking and talking different.
Facts. And it makes you think like, okay, so it's possible for them to gang up on you and change narratives, right? What did Monique say that they did? right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, girl, when I tell you, so I didn't care, but I do think they did her dead wrong.
Yeah.
But okay, so moving right along, this kind of goes in theme. So I know you heard that Chris Brown's performance was pulled by the AMAs.
Yeah.
Right? You know, the
Yes.
girls said, look, no beef. We love Chris, we love Michael Jackson, but we got to take this out the show.
Yeah.
Everybody is going nuts, and everybody is equating it to his past regarding Rihanna and the numerous other women that he has been charged of assaulting.
Yeah.
Respectfully. So our very own chocolate goddess, Miss Kelly Rowland, had the nerve when interviewed, because she actually accepted the award on Chris's behalf at the show because he did not attend. And you know, I believe she was booed for accepting the award. Okay. And so when they interviewed her afterwards, she was like, you know, I think everyone deserves a chance. Like, we shouldn't criticize him for his past. Like, he deserves grace. And light-skinned man, all that stuff.
Right.
So our very own Lovely T put up a post on her page, and it was interesting because Jackie Aina, are you familiar with Jackie Aina?
Jackie.
Yes. Miss Jackie Aina, YouTube beauty influencer / home goods extraordinaire, commented up under Lovely T's post, and this is what Miss Jackie said. She said that I am an abuse survivor myself. It will absolutely never, ever, under any circumstance, be appropriate to tell people who they should forgive, support, and when they should do it. This is not about grace. People are allowed to have standards, and I believe not wanting to support someone who reminds you of harm or trauma you've experienced is one of them. He is doing fine. I also don't think that an artist who is routinely openly colorist to dark-skinned Black women exclusively will ever be worth defending or supporting. What are your thoughts?
So I have two thoughts about it, because I feel like Miss Jackie's comment is definitely valid, but at the same time, you know, Chris Brown's career has definitely remained and has even gained more popularity since the whole Rihanna incident. And she herself, even, you know, I think through seeing how they interacted with each other post that, you know, we're not in the situation, but from what is seen, it seems like, you know, not business as usual, but it seems like they can at least coexist in the space, you know.
Absolutely.
And those are the two people that were actually a part of the situation. So to the point of him not being able to perform, it was canceled, I think, a couple days before, without notice or why. So like, we don't really know why they were booing, because, you know, it's not like, I think it can be assumed why, but it's also like, were they booing because he's not performing? And you have all those people who were a part of the show that were doing all the practices and training and all these things, and now are no longer doing this. And it's also like, at the same time, he was asked to do it. So, you know, it's like, Jackie, we hear you. But it's just like, the bitches still asked him to do it anyway, despite this. So to that point, they're not on the same wave as you. And is that the reason why? I don't know if I could say it is, but that's what's known about Chris Brown. Like, before, you know, under the influence, you know that he beat Rihanna's ass, you know, regardless of where you live. So
I remember where I was when that happened. I had a best friend who was a Chris Brown fanatic. I remember that's when the Double McGum commercial was out. The double your pressure, double your fun. They snatched that thing right on off. Child, like, I remember that. That was like, what, 08? I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, that was the times. But to that
go ahead.
point, it's just like, that was 08. It is 2022. Like, my thing is like, I'm lost. Like, it was so confusing what happened. And I think Kelly, she is a chocolate goddess, but it's just like, girl, let's figure out why first, because we don't know why they're booing. Like, he was nominated, for Christ's sake. It's not like he was blackballed and like, he put out this album that was a good album and got no recognition. So I just personally felt like she was reacting and being a sister, like which is
A
it's good.
Mamie.
A Mamie,
She was caping for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say that. I would definitely agree to that point because it's just like, why? There wasn't enough information. And I think to Jackie's point, it's definitely fair what she's saying, but I just personally think like people choose interesting times to hold others accountable when like you could constantly have that conversation if that truly mattered to you. I personally feel like if that's the stance you're going to take when the situation happens, you could be advocating for that like constantly. And I'm not saying she's not doing that, but in regards to supporting men who are in media, who are continuously doing these things, like she has a huge platform, and she is well connected. And I'm not saying that speaking out against those things. I'm just saying kicking someone, not while they're down, because Chris Brown seems like he's just doing just fine post the whole thing. But, I just feel like jumping on the bandwagon and like giving your soapbox feel is not the time to like drop this dialogue in. Although I do love me some Jackie, I will say that like it's just like application and the time I'm just not really here for. And Kelly, wait before you just put on your cape and fight for the man that you really don't know why they're booing. Like, we don't know why they were booing. And I personally heard some cheers in there too. So I'm just like, I don't.
It was 50-50. I would say I agree with you like 1,000%. I think that we got to figure out why. Per the AMA, they just simply didn't have the time for it. So if that's the narrative that we have, then that kind of is what it is. But I do think that everyone jumped to like his past, which I don't think is, I mean, it may or may not be relevant, but at the end of the day, they didn't tell us if that was the case or not. So I'm with you on that. My only thing is that at the end of the day, like when the past was brought up and that was used as a potential reason why, the whole thing of like, that happened so long ago and Rihanna has forgiven him. It's like, no, this young man has beat multiple people. So it's kind of like, and they don't mess with him. And like, he's proven to be violent and colorist, and he just doesn't have the best past. And like the Rihanna thing, that's just the most prevalent issue. But Chris Brown just isn't that good of a person. So it's kind of like, yikes.
I mean,
oopsies.
Okay, I know, sorry, but to your point, I feel like you hit the nail on the head. And like there are so many men in R&B in the music industry that are just like tucked in the closet. Nobody says anything about what they're doing ever. And Chris Brown is only one of like a few that I could count on a handful. So like that sentiment that you said right there speaks volumes because it's very true.
Yeah, and I think that like anyone who comes out, they're doing it to Trey Songz now. Like I feel like once your situations get brought to the light, like like they're gonna be on that. But it's like I just feel like there's so many people, especially in the industry, who have like nefarious or bad intent that just be out here like doing the wildest stuff. It's like you don't even know. And like when you start hearing stories, you're like, dang, Tank, Mario, you did what? And like like you said, like we need to figure out why. And if they're telling us they didn't have the time, they just didn't have the time. So we can't speculate like past that or whatever. They said they could not fit it in the time slots.
Said what we
So
said.
that's all I have for So Yesterday, the Hot Topic segment. We'll be back with the brain pick after a word from our sponsor, aka me. Don't forget to shop www.essentiallyuzo.com. That is my affirmation-based business filled with affirmation floor mats for your young little Black and brown girls. Coming soon will be different types of hair accessories and any type of item that you can see in your bathroom, riddled with affirmations and beautiful words for your young girls. Again, that is www.essentiallyuzo.com.
So on this segment of the brain pick, something that I have been thinking about and wanted to know your opinion on is, what are your views on pansexuals? And do you think such a thing exists?
Oh, goodness. Okay. So I had an experience with the pansexual white man
Oh,
on
exciting. Okay.
a dating app. He was nice. He was cool. We were talking for like about a week.
Hmm.
And then I was getting towards the period where I was gonna unmatch him because he wasn't like responding quick enough. He was like responding like once a day or whatever.
Hmm.
And so he had sent me a message like late at night and was like, "Oh, one thing I want to say, like, before we continue further is like, I am pansexual. Does that bother you?" And I blocked him because it was too much going on. He was a white
Got it.
man.
Okay.
And,
One.
and then it was like the
Strike through one.
pansexual. Um,
Strike through.
but to answer your question, I think that you can be pansexual, yes. Um, it's very possible. I just feel like for me, it's a lot going on because that means you're attracted to everybody. Anything goes.
Yeah. Right.
Anything goes. And it's
Right.
like to me, it's a lot. It's a
Got it.
lot. It's
That's fair. That's fair. I will say my thoughts on it is I kind of think that's how human sexuality is anyway, right? Like as a blanket statement, like I really do think that's how human sexuality works. But we're conditioned and we think and we have our cultures and our norms and all those things. So like,
Mhm.
that applies to our everyday life as we age and go through. But I do think the idea of like being attracted to people regardless of their gender or whatever is a very natural response. I just personally have qualms against most of all of the orientations because I just personally think like they don't make sense and people just add more layers and the shit gets even more complicated and then you have
Yeah.
identities and then that conflicts with sexuality and it's just too much. But I personally like my view on pansexuals is just like you like it. I just personally think like I recall the days where like people would talk about their sexuality and what their interests are, and like it would just be that. Like it didn't have a name.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's cool.
And
Let
you
that one weird
see?
person be over there.
That's what I thought. Like, remember when bisexual was just as far as it
Yeah.
went?
Hmm.
Because for the longest time in my head, like, I couldn't understand because, of course, we have like the trans community.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you would still be bisexual if you're
Hmm.
attracted to all of that too. But then,
Hmm.
of course, we have the non binary girls and like a lot of other
Yeah.
things that have
Yeah.
come into play since then.
Yes. Yes.
But I definitely see where you're coming from. But I think it would just be so interesting to see like if there would be a way for us to just strip all of the preconceived
Mm.
notations as it
Hmm.
pertains to like romantic attraction because
Hmm.
you're attracted to this, you're attracted to that. But do you want to have sex with this? Because that's what I equate romantic
Mhm.
attraction to.
Yeah.
It's like I could be
Mhm.
really attracted to like your energy, your light.
Yeah.
I want to be in your presence, but do I want to fuck you? Like, I don't feel that way about everyone.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying. I hope that one day there can be like an experience to where like they can completely strip all of our preconceived notations and see
Mhm.
like if romance even like really exists or are we just gonna mate
Mm.
just to reproduce or like
Right?
what would really happen, like, you know what I mean,
That
without
is a good
all these norms.
experience, like an
Yeah.
experiment, because I personally, that's how I feel about women. I think women
Yeah.
are beautiful. Like, I find myself attracted to women, but am I sexually attracted to a woman? I can't say I haven't. Like,
Yeah.
I've thought about women sexually, but have I actually enacted on it, like, even consciously?
Yeah.
No. Like, I'm just, like, not opposed to it. It just does not feel
It's
like
not
the
your
natural
thing.
response for me, you
Yeah.
know? But it's also, like, so many qualms with sexuality because even to your point, like, people understanding, like, you have people that go back to that whole nature versus nurture and they're like, well, I was born this way. And as a queer person speaking about myself,
Mhm.
I do not believe that. I think it was not necessarily learned, but it was influenced. Because as I said, like I consciously am making the decision not to sleep with a woman. Like if I were
But do you
to,
feel like you want to though? That's the
well,
thing.
I think that that feeling goes back to how I'm thinking. Like, you can look at something and be disgusted by it. Not that that's how I feel about
Mhm.
women, but mentally that will not obviously make me want to engulf in like whatever this is or indulge in whatever this is. Like,
Uh-huh.
so I don't think about it because I don't think about it. Like,
Yeah.
as far as I go would be like, okay, I see a girl, she's attractive. I could really be interested in the girl. We'll take Susanna, for example.
Ooh!
Like, I was
From the story time
I
link
know.
up above.
Please be sure to follow that video and tune in. And we do a great little breakdown of who Susanna
Yes.
and is. But yeah, I was genuinely interested in her. Could I do that with her? For sure, if that's what it crossed, because that would have to naturally happen in that sense.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I
So
guess.
that's something that I would be open to, but like I just feel like it's so layered. But to say like, oh my God, I was born when it comes to my sexuality, I've
Uh-huh.
never felt outside of my manhood or being a
Yeah.
man, or I don't know what that is like. I've never been there. I can't speak to that. But as far as saying like me personally, I don't believe that. I think it is a choice. I think it's a strong choice. It's it's a strong choice.
Curious. Okay,
But
I just have one
ask away,
question.
ask
I don't
away.
want to, because we only have a few more minutes.
Yes, yes.
But about 20 to be exact. But okay, because it's like when it comes to the choice aspect, and if
Yeah.
it is some sort of influence, what do you think the influence is? Like, where would you even get the thought in your mind that that was even okay?
Yeah. So for me, my first sexual experience was with a boy.
Mm.
Well, I was a boy at the time too. I was really young. So
Why is that?
um I don't know, honestly. I really, because I was pursuing girls and I actually like these girls.
Uh-huh.
Like, um, there was two. They're probably never gonna, or maybe if they do, they should know
It's
how I
like,
feel.
hey,
But
call me.
Oceana and Stephanie were
Not
the names.
Oceana. Hey,
I
girl.
know. Like, first of all,
Hey,
they were
girl.
so cute. Like, so cute. I think she actually wound up working somewhere where I worked years later. But anyway, yeah, so they were super cute. I don't know why I never like I guess pursued them, but my first like physical thing was with a boy, and that was kissing and fondling. And then I actually received some like oral play from a girl. Um, and like that was fine, but I never really like pursued women. It was just like I had this moment where the choice of me owning my body and being explorative with my body was with a man.
But why'd you pick
So
a man though?
I picked that specific person because
Mm.
like I don't really know because
You don't think
the
it was
way it
innate?
happened. No, I don't. Was it like unlearned? No, I definitely think that like I enacted on what I was feeling, and I was like, okay, this is someone that I know, and it was really like innocent, because
Mm.
I was young, so it started like I asked them, did they know how to kiss? And, like we were neighbors practically. We
Mhm.
went to the same school. He was my best friend when I was like super young. And like he said no, so then we kissed or whatever. And then we fondled, and that was like my first physical experience, and I think that was something that stuck with me. I obviously enjoyed myself, so as I started to age and go on and become a bit more independent, autonomous with my own body and sexuality, like that's what I was going off of. If it were to happen any differently, which it didn't, I could say that the result would be different, but it didn't.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I
Yeah, the
mean,
only way that I could even, because I can't wrap my head around that. Like, I definitely
yeah.
feel like feelings, they come, I don't know, us trying to figure out where feelings come from. I
Oh,
don't even
girl.
know how that
I
would
know.
even, like, that doesn't even, like, whatever.
No.
But
Yeah.
like, I can kind of see your scenario, like, maybe like if you were someone who was like only around little
Yeah.
boys or
Hmm.
whatever. But I think you just wanted to fuck men.
Ah,
I just think, well, not at 6. I just think that
ah,
you wanted, or like not as like an
oh my
elementary
God.
schooler,
Yes.
but I just think
Have
you
a
thought he was cute
fantasy.
and you wanted to make
Yeah.
out.
No, that's
It
probably
is
true.
what it
That's
is.
probably true. So I would say pansexuality is brain pick. confused.
Not confused. So that's a.
We're somewhere in the middle. And then my last part is
Oh, am I
how
sweating?
are you? Oh,
I
just for
am.
free
Just a
zone.
little.
Oh, just a little.
That's a lot.
I know. I had that happen too. I don't think it's today though, but
Yours is like thick.
all of my whites, oh my God, they're ruined. But brain pick on unfit parents who happen to be your family members. How do you have those conversations or do you not have those conversations?
Oh my gosh. So I've never been, you know what? Okay, I have a mini story on this. So when I was about like 11, my cousins, they came over from Nigeria. They were like fresh off the boat, child. They had been here for
Mm-hmm.
like a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a mom and dad. They had like 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Their oldest child was like 1 year younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So at this time, I wasn't enrolled in like a summer camp. I usually did like summer camps, but for whatever reason, I wasn't enrolled in one. So they would take me to her house, and I would just play with her kids or whatever. I was the oldest one there, whatever. So one time she went to the store, and like the kids, like they were crying because they wanted cookies. They were just like whining
Mm-hmm.
about cookies, blah, 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 blah. Mind you, I'm like 10. The other girl, she was like maybe 9-ish, eight and a
Mm-hmm.
half-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And all the other children, I feel like the youngest kid was probably like 4 or 5,
Okay.
right? So they're like whining about cookies, all this stuff. And they're asking me like what the number, like the emergency number is, this,
Okay.
and that. And I was like, oh, like it's 911. Ended up calling 911. One of them kids called 911. And apparently this lady was like in like a DDS battle. Like that like really like ruined her life. And for the longest time, like the people like in the community, like they never really said anything to me personally, but like my friends or like my cousins, quote unquote, because we weren't related, child.
Yeah.
But the other people in the community that were like my age, they would be like, oh, like, my parents told me about what you did to so-and-so. And it really made me feel bad because I was like, here I am, 10 years old. They're asking me what the emergency number is. And I'm like, it's 911. So how was I supposed to have enough wisdom to be like, oh, don't call? Or like, what do you expect from me? 10. So but apparently she was dealing with that for a while.
Wow.
And like it was like a whole thing. I remember the caseworker came to my house to interview me. And like, and she wasn't gone for more than like she ended up coming while the police was there. That lady was probably gone for like 30 minutes. And she actually came back with like cookies.
Oh no.
And
No, she
in
had the
Nigeria,
cookies.
it's different. Like, you can leave kids, you can leave like a 5-year-old at home. Like there's
Yeah.
no rules. I don't even know what the correct age is to like leave a kid at home now. I don't even know what that is.
Oh yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like it may be 11 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that situation, I inadvertently ruined this lady's life. But now I feel like it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're harming your kid, I'm telling on you.
Yeah.
Like if I'm privy to it, I'm telling on you, and I don't care. Because it's like, what are you doing? Now, if it's something to where it's like, oh, you got to work 2 shifts, like you don't have any money, like you have to leave your kids at home. I don't know if I would tell on that, but like I would make sure to like check in with your kids, maybe offer to keep them or like stay with them or something. But yeah, that's a tough one.
I know it is very
Tough
like
one.
specific, and I think I haven't necessarily had to deal with that directly, but I have seen some things that, children may have been placed in situations where a child is not going to consciously know what's going on.
Yeah.
And the adults around them should. And that's when it comes to like children, because they're tactile learners, they learn through experience. So like it's very important that you curb that, like, the right way and not have a child continue to like entertain their knowledge through that, because there are some sick people out there that do some sick things. And I've never necessarily seen that exactly, but I've definitely ran across the thought of it, just seeing how some things played out, like with some kids, and I'm just feel like that they're a little too fresh for their age right now. Like someone needs to step in and guide this the other way. Am I that person that steps in? No, because that really doesn't happen to me. And like, I would never entertain that. If that was to happen to me with a child, I would absolutely curb that behavior. But I just find it odd, like, when the parents know that this is happening and they're
Yeah.
not doing anything. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's just so and so. Or, oh, that's a family member, so it's okay. Or, oh, they're just being bad. Or, oh, let me give them a pop. Like, no,
Right.
really take the time to figure out what's going on. And I feel like when it comes to certain things like abuse and all of that, like, child rearing is one thing, but abuse is a total different thing. And I think that's never okay. And if I did know anything like that, I would definitely tell as well. So
Mhm.
it's just not right. Like,
Yeah.
it's same with animal abuse. Not that children are animals, but it goes hand in hand.
Same
Like, that's not
difference.
okay.
Very similar to each
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
And that's all I have for the brain pit.
Well, that wraps up this week's episode of Dissect the BS. Until next time, guys.
Bye.